Hey everybody, it's Andy Polk with FDRA, actually here in our FDRA offices, and I'm here with my good friend Sam Caucci, who is the CEO and founder of One Huddle. And One Huddle was recently at our CEO summit that we had here in Washington, D.C. And the reason why I keep bringing Sam back, and I talk to Sam a lot, is one, because I really just love his entrepreneurial spirit, and also believe in the product that you're doing, especially in the day and age where we see more and more millennials entering our workforce who think differently, who act differently, who learn differently. And the challenge that we see in our industry is that the training programs, when we bring these folks in, look the same as they did in the 1960s. And it's either a handbook or it's a video, an old video probably, maybe on VCR. And so at One Huddle, you guys have developed technology that changes how we can train our workforces across different departments. So let's just start off really quickly, because this is for footwearinnovation.com and also our retail newsletter and just in general trying to get the word out to the industry. But exactly what are you guys trying to accomplish with your technology at One Huddle?
So I mean, I think that Andy, the workforce is changing. You mentioned millennials, but the workforce is changing pretty dramatically.
Right.
55% will be not just millennial, but Gen Z by 2020.
Right.
So if you're afraid of millennials, get ready for Gen Z. So I think that we realize that workforce is changing pretty dramatically. The jobs that we're performing every day are changing, just as fast or even faster, which means that retailers, brands, companies, and employees at all ends of the workforce are not totally sure what work is going to look like in the years ahead, meaning that we can't continue to skill, train, develop, engage employees using the same old stuff.
Right.
So when I started the company, I came across the concept of a game being a really powerful way to not just make information stickier, but to teach some pretty interesting skills I think we would agree our workforce needs. Hard work, not being afraid to fail, being creative. So what our product does is allow a company to take all the stuff their employees need to know, convert it into quick burst games, put their entire workforce, depending on their environment, up on leaderboards, competing against each other.
Okay.
All in the process, learning material faster, getting more excited about work, and better preparing people for the job they're performing every day.
Okay, so let's take a look real quick. I'm going to share their website. Here we go. So we're looking at your website here. It's One Huddle. And it's talking about the fastest way to fire up, train your team. So the first section here we're looking at is onboard skill and retain your workforce. And it says on here, under 3 minutes a day, you can keep training your employees. So it's almost like a daily ritual where they come in and they're constantly kind of reinforcing what you're wanting them to remember or retain. And so we look at that because we were earlier talking about all the different departments that people can use, right? So we automatically think this is for HR and new employees, and it's the HR book on just, it's sexual harassment, which is a big thing right now, which is really big, or just general rules and regulations for the work, for the office space, things like that. But we're also seeing other things being used with other industries you work with on training sales staff at the local level, right? So it's not just company policy, but it's, when we talked about this platform, you're saying that at the local level, the managers there can actually create the games for the local people, meaning instead of us thinking as HR as a top-down effect, we can see HR as empowering people at the local level to say, our stores aren't really selling this SKU or this product, and I don't know why. And then you go explore it, think about it, and then you can retrain your employees on how to better focus on that, right? Is that kind of what we're thinking about?
Yeah, I think we saw two problems with the tech, from a tech perspective. A lot of the ways that we train and develop workers is still stuck in the 1980s. We use online videos, we use online and print manuals. And I think two things we saw. One is training is not a single event.
Right.
So if I'm a new employee in a retail setting, and I'm trained up and skilled up and I check the box, things are going to change.
Right.
New products are going to roll out, new promotions are going to roll out, holiday season's going to come around. I need to continuously be developing. So I think the first thing we learned is you have to shift from just tools that only, quote, train and check a box to continue to develop employees, because with the tightest labor market we've seen in a long time, losing an employee can be really damaging to a brand.
Right.
So we have to keep them connected and engaged. So I think the first thing we learned is that to this point, it's not just onboard employees, but also continuously upskill them and develop them.
Right.
And it's important that an employee knows how to do their job.
Mm-hmm.
It's equally important that they want to do their job.
Right.
So, we try to look at the world as a game, because a game, again, you let down your guard from feeling like you're being taught at.
Right. Spoken to or lectured.
And you can control, again, think of any game, and some people, say they're not gamers. The data proves otherwise, because people play games, and whether you're chasing points on a frequent flyer mile program or you're playing a console game, we're wired to think and seek out rewards.
Right.
So one of the things that happens on our platform is users are actually competing to level up. And as you level up, we're creating an environment where employees are upskilling themselves without actually realizing they're doing that. So they get employees generally like jobs they do good at.
Right.
So if we give them the opportunity to skill up, we should hopefully create an environment where workers are more connected, they stick around longer, they perform better, and they should be your leaders of tomorrow. And you shouldn't be dealing with churn like we're seeing in retail, especially.
Right.
But we see this in hospitality, we see this in sports, we see this in restaurants.
Right.
And that's kind of what we're trying to tackle.
And we also talked about it previously, but you can take the data as people play the games and see where the challenges are and what they're learning or not learning, right? So if they get a question wrong, and everybody at retail at a local level, or everybody at the home office or wherever it is getting these same questions wrong, it feeds back up, and bingo, maybe you want to build a whole program around it, right?
Yeah,
it gives you the information on the back end.
So one of the things we're trying to do is empower managers, because we got to build better managers. Because I think we can all agree today that we're moving people into management roles a little sooner than they probably are ready for, because of the way jobs are shifting.
Right.
And if you cut frontline work, it means more frontline people are going to move into leadership roles without enough experience. So what's going to happen? So our product's focused on automating some of the role of training and development. Part of that means that on a daily basis, when you play your game, if me and you were playing the same game on a specific product, me and you are going to see different questions over time based off what Andy's struggling with versus what Sam's struggling with, which is individualizing our training. We're not experiencing the same test or the same module the same way every time.
So it's growth. It's growing that employee.
So we call it a layer of AI. We call it predictive learning.
Right.
We put a lot of our tech, know-how into that. And every time you play a game or quote a course, both of us are seeing the most important content, but we're seeing it based off what we're struggling with. And then the managers can see that on the back end. So I could log in today and see, oh, wow, my team is struggling with this specific training topic.
Right.
Maybe I should have a meeting on it.
Right.
Maybe I should do a webinar on it. Maybe I should intervene. So that intelligence is not saying don't do the other stuff too.
Right.
It's just telling you what you should be doing more of at any moment in time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So scroll down a little bit. We already kind of covered that, but you're turning your managers into leaders. You can learn anything in a game. And to your point, I think what people forget is, I think your point about frequent flyer miles is really salient, because I think we all start looking to book flights with airlines we already have the points with, right?
Yep.
But also on the metro, on the subway, people are playing like Candy Crush. They're playing a ton of things, and they don't consider that gaming. Like, I guess we have this connotation that gamers are ones with Xboxes or PlayStations at home, and they're playing like these high-end video games. But anything and everything today, like you said, is a game. And making it visual and fun and stimulating is something like really unique that you guys have and work on. And I know, just the other night we saw the Golden State Warriors beat the Houston Rockets. You guys work with Golden State Warriors and their organization. You work with Fossil. You're starting to work with like Kate Spade. So you guys work with a lot of different industries. But the other thing I wanted to ask you about really quickly too was we see a lot of issues with diversity issues in our industry in particular, and there's been a lot more discussions about what diversity is, what it means, and how we recruit diverse talent, and we don't have these inherent biases when we're trying to hire people and put them in the right positions. And you were talking a little bit earlier about how more and more companies are starting to use your technology to train on diversity and to focus on these issues. So have you guys seen some success with that? What are some companies using around that?
So I think the interesting thing that we're doing with the games, even like the game on the screen right now, content on our platform can shuffle across borders. So one of the pieces of research I came across when I started the platform was that the way that we teach, think of it like the way you learn history is chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and you test after each chapter before you move on to the next. The latest research in how the brain learns continues to come back that the way that content sticks is when you learn it out of order, because it forces your brain to discriminate against where information should go and should be consolidated. The more work your brain does, the harder it is. Concentration's tough.
Right.
The easier it will be to retrieve.
Okay.
So if it's harder to learn something, generally, again, there's certain exclusions, but it's harder to learn it, it's generally going to be easier to retrieve it. Why I bring that up is we have some pretty important topics today that we work with companies on. Food safety. Pretty confident Chipotle is going to continue to screw up. Right. We're talking about implicit bias. We're talking about diversity. And I think that when you deploy those trainings at a person in a, seated module format, and they know that they're just have to click through the boxes, we shouldn't be surprised when that training doesn't fix the problem.
Right.
So what we're doing is we feel like blending that content into your everyday training, culture training, brand training. An example would be one of our clients is Lowe's Hotels. Before every shift, they call it first 5 and then last 5. They play a game. They're paid on the clock to play a game in their first 5. And in their first 5, that game could be on a mix of mission, best practices, but there might be one question from the diversity game that sneaks in just as a refresher.
Yeah.
So I think that we have to think about training not being so academic.
Right.
We got a workforce today who's been tested enough. And I think first part is how you display the material. The second thing is being real about the fact that if it's just to check a box and we're just trying to check a box, then continue doing what you're doing. But if your goal is to actually affect a young worker, let's pick on say I'm a worker from the state of Alabama, and I'm from an area of town who I don't see any people of color.
Right.
And then I go to college and I move to Athens, Georgia, and wow, there's a lot of people that don't look like me.
Right.
Do we really think a 30-minute module is going to change my implicit bias that's happened to me because of my upbringing? So I think that some of these topics require thinking a little bit more outside the box versus just being academic about it. And I think if we do that, you build a better workforce. People are more connected, and the content isn't looked at. Like when we say another module from HR, everybody's rolling their eyes.
Right.
Why is that? We have to think about delivering it a little bit different.
Right. I think that's great, because I think what you're saying is when you blend it in, it actually creates the culture of what you want in a business and a brand, of saying diversity is hugely important to us, but you're also delivering it in a way that, again, it causes them to reorient themselves. It's not a tick list where you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the same topic. You can intertwine those topics in and really get people to start thinking more critically. I mean, and in terms of doing that, if we can get our workers to think more critically in any department, we see value increase across every department.
You think about, these are serious training topics.
Right.
And we have had millions of games played on our platform on topics like harassment. I can tell you, and the data proves it, that we don't have an issue of an employee not knowing what's right and what's wrong.
Right.
They know what's right and what's wrong. And I could bring that into other food safety, implicit bias, and other stuff. The issue is them recognizing what's right and wrong in that moment. And what we're doing with again, if you play a game like ours 5 minutes before your shift, and one of the questions says, when you greet a customer, remember to smile, you're going to get it right. And then it's top of mind.
Right.
So some of these things are reminders where, again, back to training isn't a single event that we check a box on. It's got to happen a little bit every day. 3 minutes a day. It's mobile first. It's a game. I think that's there's 3 knockout punches that we're trying to check the box on.
And your software is super easy to use, set up, deploy out. People use it on their smartphones. And again, people can set up games from the bottom up, and then all the managers get stuff from the back end, right?
And that's an important point, because one of the things I've learned is when we work with these, especially big brands, and by big brands, I mean maybe even just 1,000 employees or more, you have 3 or 4 people in learning and development who are really well-intended, who are pushing content all the way down to 1,000 workers. I look at this sort of like crowdsourcing. Like before Uber, we didn't realize how many taxi drivers were actually on the street.
Right.
There's 1,000 workers inside of a company that are all learning and development. All we have to do is unlock the ability for them to share best practices up. So a situation would be in a retail setting, that frontline worker is going to be the first one to realize the customer-employee interaction is changing based off the job I do, or the new robot is getting the shoes from the back. So my job has changed a little bit. You know, so we have to tap in to that situation, which comes from the employee. So to your point, on our platform, employees can build games. Employees can build questions. They can suggest them up. You can incent them for it. They get points for doing it. You know, but again, now instead of only having a few people building content in a room somewhere, you know, geographically the farthest from your customer employee interaction, now they can, now you have more people that are part of the team.
And then you got leaderboards so you can see who's doing what and who's the most active, and then give out awards for those guys just absolutely killing it. And
we got out of March, and we had a huge March Madness tournament across our entire network of companies and players. I mean, I always come back to it. It's the simple stuff, and we all know this in business. It's the simple stuff you just have to nail. And when you rate and rank employees on different things, and again, it's in a fun environment. It's meant for players and employees to hold each other accountable. It spreads like wildfire.
Awesome. Well, we're definitely going to have you on our podcast. We'll have more conversations about this, and at that time, we can have a longer conversation about our changing workforce, because I think we all see it in every single department. And to your point too, it's not just generational, it's just the change of technology and the change of society and our economies and all our different skill sets and tools, and our lives in essence are changing. So of course our jobs are changing as well. So congrats on the technology. If people watching want to learn more, want to get the demo and try it out, they go to onehuddle.com. Is that the web address?
Yeah, so if we share a demo to check out the product, go to onehuddle.co.
Got it. Onehuddle.co. Or you can contact me, Andy Polk at FDRA, and I'll of course flip it over. But this is a technology that I think can have a transformative effect on our workforce, which is probably our biggest asset as an industry. It's not just the ideas or the product we're churning out, it's the people day in, day out that are making it work and selling those shoes to Americans across the country. So Sam, thanks for coming in today. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is a longer chat session. We're trying to really kind of dig into issues more than we have in the past. And if you have topic or ideas that you would like us to cover on technology changing our industry, just drop us a line. But until next time, we'll catch you later.